going to be talking about the mind dump. And this is a fantastic technique that I use every week. I actually use it also in work. I use it as part of meetings. I've used it with audiences of over 100 people before I've started doing a self-development training or before we've gone into business planning and things like that. And it's very useful. And it's called the mind dump. And basically, it's clearing your mind before a project or a massive action plan that you have, or you want to just clear your head for the week and get things out. It's brilliant. It takes a short period of time, and it really does have great success. So again, please pop in the chat and say hello, where you're from. Tell me all about your success and what you're finding with these strategies. These strategies only work if you use them. There's no point in listening to something and not having a go. And I suggest with these, you have a go, test it out, change it to the way you want to use it, and find your own success. So the mind dump. So what is it? Basically, it's clearing your mind. Basically, like we said, we're clearing the decks, we're emptying our mind, we're getting things out. Now, it is based on some scientific theory. Now, the scientific theory was started in about 1956, I think, by a guy called Miller. And Miller talked about the number magic 7. So the number 7 as being a magic number. And the magic number, basically, he said that your mind, at the forefront of your mind, you could only store 7 minus 2 or plus 2, which equals 9. So you could only store 7 bits of information, either minus or plus 2, in your head at any one time in the short-term memory. And then your mind basically can't cope with that information. That's why phone numbers are sometimes in 4 numbers first, then 4 numbers, and then 4 numbers. And if you think about your mobile phone number, if you say it out loud now, nobody can hear it, so don't worry. But if you say your mobile phone number out now, what your brain will do is actually break up that telephone number into chunks, because that's the way the mind works. It's the same with telephone numbers. If you think about your landline, if you've still got a landline, that number, try and say your whole telephone number out loud, and you can't do it because your mind doesn't work like that. So that magic number of 7, I think, is a really good analogy. At the moment, though, in our lives now, I think there's so much information that comes our way that basically we overload our mind as well. So much wonderful internet stuff on at the moment. Lots of courses, lots of ideas coming through, but there's loads and there's too much. And I don't know if you found it, but sometimes you start doing one course and you'll start looking at another thing, and then a thing comes up again, and then basically it just fills your mind a bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the solution of the mind dump. So here it is, folks. Here is the strategy. There are 5 key parts to the process. I always try and keep it at 5, no more, no less, so it sticks in our head. And I'll go through those 5 now. So number 1 is start with a blank sheet of paper. Get a blank sheet of paper and a pencil, and basically dump out of your head onto the paper, dump out of your head onto the paper everything that comes to your mind. Write it down, okay? Let it flow, let it write free form. Don't edit. There's no editing at the moment. We're just getting it out. Things may pop in like shopping lists, people you need to talk to, actions that you need to do, that bit of wall that needs painting, that book that you want to read. Just blob it out. Quotes that come to your head. Things I've said now you might want to write down. Get it out of your head and just write it down and just scribble and write and write and write. I don't use a computer for stage 1 because basically it becomes a list then. I found no computer program that you can sort of sort out. Some people try and do mind maps, but mind maps, you need to do a dump first before a mind map, because a mind map you start to link things and you start to do another part of the process which we're not on yet. So get that piece of paper out, write it down, and dump onto the paper all that information and wonderfulness that's in your head. I promise, once it's done, you'll feel good that you've got it all out. So what's the next part? Number 2 is take a breath. In fact, take 3 breaths, as Michael explains in 17. Use a 3-4-5 technique, which is fantastic for just calming the mind. And basically, if you don't know, a breath in 3 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 5. In, and out. We'll just do it one more time. In, hold, and out. Wow, doesn't that feel amazing? Just gives you that space. Now we're on to step 3, number 3 in our process, and that is going deeper. So you've got your mind dump there, and now you start to ask yourself some deeper questions which you've developed in your own head, and that will help you put more things down onto your piece of paper. Now, I've been doing this, as I said, for a couple of years now, so I've got lots of questions in my head, or what I use. I started writing them down to give me prompts, but now I don't need them. And when I do this session with people in one of my training sessions, I go through a whole list of questions to spark information for people. So I've just picked some of those out for you now, which people tell me are really good ones. So here's the first one. Here's a question to ask yourself: what jobs or tasks didn't I finish last week? So what jobs and tasks didn't I finish last week? What's on your mind now? What's niggling you now? Okay. Who do you need to celebrate this week, and why? Is it someone's birthday? Is it someone's anniversary? Who do you want to say thank you to? That's great. Get those names down. This question, I think, is one of the best questions I ask, and I strongly recommend you to have a go at this one. So here's the question. If you had half an hour free, what would you do with it? How would you spend it? Okay, so if you had half an hour free next week, how would you spend it and what you do? And I suggest you write that one down and put a circle around it, because usually what comes to your head in that question is something really, really important that your mind and your body is telling you to do. Question now, what have you learned this week? What could have gone better? What are you thankful for right now? And the last question is, who do you need to reach out to? So there are some questions for the going deeper process. Here's now number 4. Number 4 is basically you need to look at your mind dump and start to categorize. It's not writing lists at this stage. All you're simply doing is putting a little code next to each thing you've written, and I suggest you try it for everything you've written and code it by, in themes. It might be a theme of what, for example, it might be a shopping list or shopping. It might be emails you need to write, something you need to fix. Just use a simple coding system. I just write the @ symbol for email. I put T for telephone. I put a tick for to do, and that's what I do. And then I also make sure that I've done every one of them. You might want to group about where you're going to do it. Maybe at home, in the office, maybe at work, maybe in the shops, maybe your aunties. It could be anywhere. You might want to list who you're going to do it with. Who do you need support, and who do you need help? Are you going to enlist your team? So last week we talked about doing the clean your decks and getting the kids involved and making it a fun activity. So who are you going to involve? And then what steps, how are you going to do it? So you need to think about what steps is going to be the next step of what you're going to do to make those things happen. Just starting to think about the how. Then what I suggest you do is take some time out, take a sip of water, get hydrated, and ask the last question. And this is, again, a really powerful question. Ask yourself, what's not important on this list? What are you going to let go of? What are you going to say goodbye to? Bit of fun, farewell. Adieu, auf Wiedersehen, adios, cheerio, so long. What are you going to say goodbye to? What doesn't really matter on this list now? Or in this mind dump? It might have mattered 10 minutes ago, but it doesn't matter now. And you know what? It's okay. to put a line through some things. In the words of Disney, let it go, but I'm not going to sing. So that's 4, and then the last step, number 5, is quite simply pick 5 items on your mind dump that you're going to commit to solving, addressing and doing next week. Get a yellow highlighter out or circle what you're going to do and pop them into your diary. Although be realistic how long it's going to take. You might want to consider, for example, 17-minute sprints. You might want to group things together and think, right, that's a 17-minute sprint. I'm going to go bam, 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 get those things done. But remember, what gets scheduled, I'm a great believer, is what gets done. And in one of my future trainings, I will talk about that and how basically you can time block these ideas. Okay? So that's number 5, is actioning. Number 5 is actioning. Okay? So that's it. That's it done. That's the mind dump done. 5 simple steps. Get out your head. Take a deep breath. Go easy on yourself. Go deeper. Categorize what you put in your mind dump and take action doing 5 things. So have a go. Get your piece of paper out. Do your mind dump. Get those 5 things done and have an amazing week.